putting the bolts in and shit like that.
Okay.
That's a
Yeah,
steeple
back
jack.
in the day, they were building.
You know, and Dad was afraid of heights, so he got a job as a short order cook in a place called Bickford's Restaurant
In New York City?
in New York City, Brooklyn. Flat
I lived there.
They had a room in Flatbush Avenue.
Oh my God, I've been on Flatbush.
Yeah.
I worked in Bushwick and Williamsburg.
You know, that's where my father, until World War II came along, then he went in the service. You know, and my father, when he came out of the service, because of his, he'd been shot in the shoulder, he had a hell of a job working for a company called Sperry Gyroscopes out of Waterbury, Connecticut, and they made bomb parts, fuses and stuff like that. And Dad was immediately hired, and he had a hell of a job. And of course, my mother, being close to the family as she was, got very homesick, and I was just a baby at the time. She was carrying Jean, and she felt isolated and alone in the big city. Well, Dad was making damn good money, and he left that job to accommodate her needs and went back to New Hampshire and struggled. I mean, really struggled in New Hampshire.
Wow.
And I showed Jean the places that we lived because I have a very, very good memory.
I think you showed us once a place where he worked. I feel like it had something to do with shoes or building, like nails.
Well, that's where my mom worked. My mom worked in a shoe shop.
He took us to somewhere. You remember that, Alicia? One summer he took us to seemed like an old factory that was no longer.
That was Scott Williams, the old airplane company.
No
he worked
longer
there.
Mm-hmm.
He worked 2 jobs, and then he bought that piece of land up there, and it took 5 years, but he built that house. Built that house for $12,500.
This is in Tilton?
In Tilton, right, where that home in the country, right?
Yeah.
And he sold it for $167,000. And we had a